Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
Today we have a first session, which is a part of Master in DevOps Engineering. So thank you very much for attending this session. Let me introduce myself. My name is Rajesh Kumar, and I'm one of your trainer for this courses. Some of you have attended. Some of you have enrolled for MD, Master in DevOps Engineering. Some of you have enrolled for DevOps alone. Some of you have enrolled for SRE, and some of you have enrolled for DevSecOps. So yes, today is the session where we understand, where we would understand what is DevOps, what is DevSecOps, what is SRE, what is a master in DevOps engineering, and everything. Okay, so we'll spend some time over here, and then we'll get into the Q&A session. We have a dedicated 30 minutes Q&A session. Okay, and in that session we will discuss everything about the training, course materials, video recording, access, and all other stuff. Okay, so many other stuff we'll discuss in that session, but today to begin with, we will start with the session directly, and then we'll get into the Q&A and related questions related to the batches, question related to access, question related to different resource materials and stuff like that. Okay, before we begin, let me share some of my experiences with you. So I have started my career in 2005 as a software engineer, and since then I've been working with many organizations uh, with the different roles and responsibility. Some of the organizations I have worked with, which includes Accenture, Mindtree, uh, IBM Lab, Adobe System, Intuit, ServiceNow, JDA, uh, Nest Technology in India as well as abroad. Some of the roles and responsibilities I have performed in my previous organizations, which includes like programming, build and release, DevOps, and DevSecOps, and all this stuff. So everything here I mean, whatever I know, I'm going to share with you. Microservices world, containers world, cloud world, and many other things. Okay, so yep, let's get started. So first question, what we have in our mind is like why we are learning DevOps. Okay, so there are many keywords which we have. Let's understand this. I'm not going to run only slides in this session, but let's have some sort of practical, analysis on that what we've been doing from last many years. So we have gathered here to understand what is DevOps. Okay, that's the first question. Now, next question is what is DevSecOps, right? What is DevSecOps? And some of you wants to understand what is SRE, right? Then some of you wants to understand MD also, Master in DevOps Engineering. Okay. So I think some of you, just a second, let me. So
This conference will now be recorded.
yeah, so we have gathered for these questions only. What is DevOps? What is DevSecOps? What is SRE? What is MD? And why we should learn actually? Why should we should learn? So first thing I would like to tell you here, if you have some of the things in your mindset, like okay, I should learn all these things, so I get a better job. I think if you think in that way, then your learning would not be completed, because this is something which you have to, not only you have to learn from your job, but for your entire duration of software development career. So it's not for the next project or next job, but you have to learn all this stuff for the entire duration of your career. So yeah, if you want to be in a software engineering domain or not, even if you're not in a, if you, let's say if you don't want to be in a software engineering domain, you need to learn all this stuff. Okay, so let's get started. So first thing, I will start with some of the discussions here is like like uh like what is the problem? Okay, what is the problem in existing system? Now that is the thing we should know, right? Because if you want to learn DevOps, DevSecOps, SRE and stuff like that, then we need to ask like, okay, why should I learn? What is the problem in existing system? Okay, existing system. Now, when I say existing system, that means typically I'm talking about SDLC cycle. SDLC cycle means software development life cycle. I mean, the process which you follow to develop one software, which we call it a software development life cycle. So what is the problem we have? Okay, so now let's try to understand what is the problem we have. So if I draw some sort of visualization here. Now, earlier we were doing the software, we were using the software, let's talk about something like in 1990s, right? So we were using the software. Now if you look at this software, the one we were developing, I mean, software engineers were developing, this software we were being used by someone else, right? In 1990s also we were using the software, okay, 30 years from now, and it was used by someone else, let's say end client. So the question is where they were running the software, let's say end client, where they were running. Let's see, let's take Microsoft Office as an example. So where we were running that Microsoft Office, so we were running in the desktop or physical devices, right? Desktop. Now you are having uh, the software which is developed.
Hey viewers, are you looking for formal training on SRE practices? Take our SRE program. This course will teach you how to successfully implement site reliability engineering in the modern day 24/7 services. Kickstart your SRE training today. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
In 1990s era, and we were installing in a desktop or laptop. It's a physical machine, right? We were installing in the physical machines. And if you look at it, one more thing here, uh, before installing the software in a desktop, we were buying the software and we were paying in advance, right? So let's say you were buying a software from the Microsoft, and you were paying in advance. You don't know whether the quality of the software, but you have heard about it. Okay, it's a good quality, like a Photoshop, Tally, Microsoft Office, and many other software you might be using it at that time. So actually we were paying in advance. Okay, that is a kind of things we were doing. So in the 1990s we were using a software. So software engineers were developing a software, and that was being installed in desktop, and for this software we were paying in advance, correct? This was the kind of trend which we had in 1990s. Right now what has happened is suddenly we started getting one revolution, you can say, and that revolution has come in form of 1990s later. Okay, 1990s later, that is in form of internet. Okay, see, we got the internet right now. Okay, so all of us got internet, but before getting into the world of internet and then the evolution of the software development cycle, let's talk about it here. In 1990s, we, when I say we, that means software engineers were developing a software, but we were developing a software with a certain process, right? There must be some certain process to develop a software, right? Because we were having so many peoples working together, 20 people, 30 people, hundreds of peoples were working together. So there must be some process in which we can do the software development efficiently and deliver the software development efficiently. And also it should be cost effective, it should be quality of the software should be good. So for that you need to follow some process, right? Without, if you don't follow the process in the software development, it might not get you the results what you desire. So we started following the software development process. Now that we call it a software development life cycle, typically you call it, right? So in 1990s, when we were developing a software that was a desktop based software, the software we were charging in advance, that means our consumers were paying in advance, then we were using the waterfall model. Okay, that you all know that this is the SDLC cycle which we were following. Waterfall model, that is the SDLC cycle, right? SDLC cycle, which was named with waterfall model. Now I'm not going to define that what is the SDLC cycle and what is the waterfall model, because most of the things which I assume you know that. But typically, just to get an overview, in SDLC cycle what we do, software in waterfall model what we do, first we plan a software. Okay, so let's say we spend 3 months of time to plan a software. After that we code a software, design the software. So design, let's say, spend 3 months. After that we code a software. So again we spend 3 to 4 months for coding the software. After that we do the testing, or maybe some parallel testing is also. So we do the thorough testing and security testing. So it is again 3 months of time for the testing, and after that we do the release. So if you look at this here, for the planning, designing, coding, testing, and the release, that is we do in a sequence. We don't do the parallel. We were doing in a sequence. Why we were doing in the sequence? Why do we were doing in the sequence? Because there is a reason for it. Our architect of software, when I say architect, means how the software has been bundled together. Together. Architect means bundling together. Okay, let's say you have a software, let's say MS Office, you have hundreds of feature. It was bundled together. Bundled together means one exe you find for all software. You see, you have a Microsoft Office CD, you have hundreds of software, hundreds of feature in a Microsoft Office. You bundle together in one go. Okay, so what do we call it, that model? Typically when you say the architect model, what do we call it now? Monolithic. Okay, that model we call it monolithic. Okay, so here you see that what we were doing earlier. I'm talking about the earlier. In 1990s, when we were not having internet, we were developing a software that used to be installed in a desktop. We were paying for the software in advance, and the waterfall model which we were following for the development of the software, that means waterfall model means everything we do, like a plan, design, coding, testing, everything we do in the sequence, linear, not a parallel. So you used to take how much used to be the release cycle? Release cycle used to be 1 year. That's the reason. Remember, MS Office always used to get released in 1 year. 2010 MS Office, 2011 Office, 2012 Photoshop also we were releasing once in a 1 year. That was a major release. If you do the minor release, then probably used to get once in a 3 month. Even though if you have a security issues, it used to take hot patches like 1 month or 2 months. That was a cycle, because we were doing everything together. So now here we had a monolithic architecture. That means what is a monolithic architecture? All feature in one. Because we everything we do in one. Let's say we want to have a 20 features in software, so you want to do everything release at once, then we bundled it together. So used to waterfall model was best for that, because you want to do first planning, then designing, then coding, then testing, then release. So that way, because you don't want to do one component release, you want to do every component release. So this was good model. This was Waterfall was good model, and release cycle used to be longer because of linear approach in a software development life cycle, and because of this reason. So here, these were the behaviors which we had in 1990s. I hope you have got it. There's nothing new I'm teaching you. It is a pretty old stuff. Now, then we got the internet. Okay, then we got the internet. Now remember here, when we got the internet, okay, when we got the internet, then we started running our software. Again, we were doing the software development at that time also. In the age of internet, we were starting the we started developing a software for the internet based application, like which can be accessible over the browser, right? Browser, not like a console which you used to use it earlier. Okay, so this was like we started using the software which was a running in the data center. Remember, running in a data center. Okay, think simple. This software was running here in data center. Here you were owning the software. Mind it, here when you install in a desktop, you become owner, but here you become a client, you become a
Hey viewers, trying to get into DevSecOps? Enroll for our DevSecOps certified professional programs and earn the certification that shows you are fit for these technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
you become a, let's say, what do you say, owner, not owner, you can say you become a no owner. For that, you were not owning that software at all, that the software was running in the data center, right? Now, and it was a browser based, you all know that. So here we were having a software mainly for the console based, and here we have a browser based. Okay, browser based. So now when we were running a software, remember here, like you might have used so many applications in your career, in your life. So some of the applications, let's say you have used Yahoo, Google search, Gmail, MSN, Hotmail, you know Orkut, you know nowadays we are using WhatsApp, WeChat, and many other applications. So you are not paying in advance, no payment in advance. Okay, users are not paying at all, because earlier we were paying for this Microsoft Office, let's say 5,000 rupees for a CD for which we were owning, but now you can't own it because it's running in a data center and you have to browse it to access it. You need to have internet to access it. So no payment in advance. You're not paying for it. Let's say if you're paying free of cost, it's completely free. So now when it become completely free and it's become a subscription based ads model and many other model, then what organization wants to do? What organizations wants to do? So they want to do objective. This is important statement here. Objective of the organization. What is the objective of the organization? When I say objective of the organization, those organizations who develop a software. It's all about the software development company's process. So what is that? So they wanted to reduce the software development cost. Reduce a cost for what? Software development. They wanted to reduce the running cost also. Running means, remember, they were running the software in a data center. They wanted to reduce the running cost also. Then they want to improve the quality also, remember, because if see here, simple logic, improvement in quality, simple logic. Earlier, let's say if you have a desktop based application, think simple, and millions of people are using it, and out of that, let's say 100 people have issues. 100 people have issues because of certain scenarios which is not tested well during the Sdlc cycle. So you got an issue and your client got an issues. So what Microsoft will say, hey, don't worry about it, I will fix after 3 months or after 6 months or after 1 year. Microsoft used to tell like that. They will not fix it immediately. Why? Because not everyone is getting impacted because of that problem. But when we started running software in data center and one software is being accessible by everyone through the browser, only one software, there's no 1 million instance of software which is in 1 million of instance of software is running in 1 millions of desktop, right? Correct. So here you have there's some questions, let me check that. So I guess why DevOps part of it is known most of the, that's so what joined for the course. So can we move on to, yeah, so Sachin, this is the introduction session. This is the session designed for you to understand more about the DevOps, DevSecOps, SRE, and it's a theoretical sessions basically. So probably just be with us, and probably if you think again this you know already and there's nothing new you are learning, so probably you can add your experiences also, or maybe these sessions will not be useful for you. Maybe next session will be useful for you when we teach tools training like Linux, Ansible, Kubernetes, Docker, AWS and all. So either you, if you know already what is a DevOps and why we are learning DevOps, then probably you have to decide, either you contribute or probably you can skip this session. Okay.
Got it. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So now,
Hey viewers, our Master in DevOps Engineering program can help you to hone the skills necessary to succeed in high-level DevOps positions. So what are you waiting for? Enroll now and earn certification that show you are keeping pace with today's technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
the question was, yeah, so here we got the internet. Then again we were running the software but not in a desktop data center, and then you become you were not owner of the software and you were using browser based. Now we were not paying in advance. Then what organizations will do? They wanted to reduce the cost. Reduce the cost. Why? Because we were not paying for it in advance. So they wanted to reduce the software development cost, software running cost, and they wanted to improve the quality of the software. So they should not tell you, they should not tell you, you should not tell them like, okay, your software is not running. They wanted to test much of the functionality in advance in a better way, more in depth. Okay, so they wanted to improve the quality of the software. One more objective what they had, apart from the reducing the cost, here one thing which I said here, improving in quality, and third one which we had is reducing, think about it, reducing a release cycle. This was a very important one. Remember here, because the software were being installed in the desktop and you were doing all this SDLC model was waterfall model, because of that you were releasing the software in 1 year. But because now you are running the software in a data center and only one software which was being used by everyone, and if you have one bugs, you have to you cannot say I will release one after 1 year, or you cannot say I will release after 6 months. So you have to reduce the release cycle. Okay, reduce the release cycle. So what was the expectation for the organizations? Reduce that to, let's say, 2 weeks at least. Okay, I'm talking about the 1990s plus. Okay, 1990s plus, let's say, reduce the life cycle of 2 weeks. So that way, instead of saying like bug fixing will be done in a 1 year, it could be done in a 2 weeks or something like that. So that is where that we see that transition. Look at the transition. So now what software company what started doing the transition? They said, okay, let's do one thing. Let's change the software development model itself. Let's change this. So what is the model they opted for it? They opted for Agile model. I am damn sure most of you must be knowing like that, knowing about this model, Agile model. Why? Because if you follow this waterfall model, the release has to be in 1 year. But if you follow the Agile model, okay, then we will have a release 2 weeks or 1 weeks, every 1 week or something like that. Now the release cycles from the 1 year, it become a 2 weeks. Now the question is, okay, if you want to do the releases once in a 2 weeks or once in a 1 week, and you want to do that Agile model, so and then it cannot be monolithic, because you cannot do all the feature development in one go in a shorter span of time. So what they did, they said, okay, let's convert this architect of the software into SOA. SOA means software oriented architecture, service oriented architecture. What does that means? So now we have a different services, different services, and just a second guys, different services, software architecture, different services like database services, web services, application services, and many more. Okay, so this was the from the transition has happened from the monolithic to SOA based, service based architecture. You see here, now here we don't do all feature in one, only few feature we release, or few bug fixes we release in 1 week. Okay, so this is the kind of transitions which we had in the team here. Now there's one thing which I missed out, the structure of team. Earlier we had a structure of teams, like earlier dev team were separate, okay, architect team were separate, dev team were separate, QA team were separate, IT team were separate, operations team were separate. Here all these teams were separate, and each one of these, remember in the 1990s era, all these teams, each one of these teams has no idea about what other teams are doing, because their scope of the work is completely independent. But here what has happened, here because of Agile model we follow, then we club together dev plus QA. See that how this transition has happened. Still the IT and operations and other teams are separate here, but we club together dev plus QA and put it as part of the Scrum planning meeting. Most of you must be knowing about it. So this is the kind of transition which we have followed. So now the question is, okay, here we were using in a desktop, but here we were started running in a data center, and the objective was how to reduce the software running cost, development cost. We wanted to reduce, so we did lots of changes here. We asked a developer and QA to start working together, coordinating well. Okay, though you do the development and testing separately, but work together. Earlier they were not working together, okay, in an isolated environment. Now what happened, this data center, basically nothing but we got here we had a physical machines, understand that, physical servers. Here we got a virtual server. Now what is a virtual server? Virtual server means VMware. Virtual server means you get a servers in a virtual machines. Virtual machines means hypervisor, managed by hypervisor. Virtual server means AWS is a virtual servers, where you get a cloud virtual servers. Azure is a virtual servers, you get it. Virtual servers is cheaper and faster. So earlier, let's say if you want to add one physical machine, it might take 1 day, but how much time it took take to create a virtual machines on the cloud, like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud? It will take hardly 2 minutes, 30 seconds and 40 seconds. Okay, so this was the kind of things which has happened. Okay, so now in the 1990s we had a software development. Again, it's same world, guys, understand that what is changed. Software development we were doing at that time also, now also in 1990s, after that also we were doing the software development, but the using was in a desktop based, installing in a physical server. You were owning the software, our client were owning the software, console based. But here we started running in a data center, then in a virtual server, and then no one can own that software, no one can own the software, and a browser based. Earlier people were paying in advance, but now with the internet based applications they were not paying in advance. So here cost constraints also has come, and reducing the release cycle constraint also has come. So what they did, they migrated from Waterfall to Agile. After that, the release cycle they reduced from the 1 year to 2 weeks. Okay, and then they had to change the architecture of also for the software from the monolithic to SOA. Okay, and then instead of all feature in one, they started doing the few features actually in a 2 weeks of time frame. And then team, earlier we had all these teams were separate, working not together, not in sync, not coordinating well, lots of issues. But here they ask, okay, let's work dev and QA together in a Agile Scrum meeting, and so the software of the quality of the software and reduction in the cost and reducing the release cycle can be possible. So this was a transitions in 1990s when we got the internet. But you know what, then suddenly the revolutions came in 2000 sometime. Okay, 2000 sometime. What is the revolution? Earlier, understand that earlier we were using the internet. Think simple, guys. Earlier we were using the internet. Nowadays internet is consuming us. Remember, earlier we were using internet through the dial-up and all, used to connect the internet. But now you know that whether you are using or not, internet is always connecting to your devices. All application is always running. You use plenty of data. Plenty of data is already being transactions, whether you know or not know. Your mobile devices, your laptop is always sharing some data from laptop to data center, some form, in some format. Nowadays, see here, look at this evolution of Gmail itself. Earlier you had a 100 MB maybe initial, when they introduced 100 MB or 250 MB, and that was a lot. Remember, that was a lot, because at the time when Google introduced the 250 MB of Gmail, we were using a floppy disk. Remember, we were using a floppy disk of 1 MB of floppy disk, or maybe CDs of 600 MB, and we got 250 MB free of cost at the cloud. Remember, so they have to do again same thing, right? Because it's a revolution we have started. We started using different applications. Unknowingly you're using the cloud, and unlimited videos you are downloading, and not downloading, let's say streaming. It's basically download itself. Every day you might have watched hundreds of videos today on Netflix or different YouTube and stuff like that. Thousands of photos you might have uploaded, hundreds of news you might have read it, transaction, this, that, and so much of things you do, and you're not paying for it. So the challenges for the organization, objective for the organization is again to reduce the cost further. Reduce the cost further for what? Software development and running cost. Your software company, the one which you are working right now, they have objective, this objective only. Remember, they always had this objective. They still have this objective. What they want? They want to reduce the software development cost. How can they do that? Ask this question to yourself. Earlier, in 100 rupees, they were developing 2 features. Now, in 100 rupees, they want to develop 5 features.
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.